What's up, BookTube? It's Leah Cooper, and today I'm going to be talking about all the reading I did for the BooktubeSFF Awards. So originally I had planned on doing individual category collective reviews, so basically for the categories that I was going to read everything or almost everything, like 2 out of 3 of the nominees, I had planned on doing separate review videos, but I started a new job. I'm now a bookseller, at least for the summer, working at a used bookstore in my town, and that's taken some adjusting to. Don't worry, I'm not going to completely disappear since it is a bookstore. I am still reading, and I'll probably be doing a summer book haul of books that I acquire while working there. I'm not going to disappear completely like I did last year when I worked for Barnes & Noble's temporarily. Because I actually, it turns out, like this job. It's a lot more fun to sell books than to serve a ton of customers at a Starbucks. Go figure. But irregardless, I don't think I'm going to have enough time to really put enough thought into those individual videos or edit them all, let alone film them all. So I'm going to go ahead and just talk about everything I read here collectively right now in this single video. Also, I didn't read everything I had planned to read, so I think this is doable. I will try to be quick and concise, give you my thoughts and who I hope to see win in the categories that I've read extensively. And yeah, let's get going. Overall, this shortlist of books, I think was good. I didn't read in every single category. There were a couple I missed. Let me get my notes. There were a couple I just completely passed by. I didn't read anything from the YA category, and I didn't finish anything from the debut category, and I didn't finish anything from the best science fiction category either. There were a couple of duds. They were pretty much ones I expected to be duds, though, to be perfectly honest. And there were a couple of surprises, which was great. I don't think I'm going to devote any considerable amount of time to reading the short list next year, because I think fundamentally there are some very popular authors who, even with the new rule set, which was implemented I think 2 years ago to make sure that, you know, an author couldn't be nominated more than twice in the shortlist as a total and not more than once in a single category, etc. Despite that, there are definitely a couple of authors who are very, 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 very popular and who I just will not read, either because I don't like them on a personal level or because I've tried their books and I don't like them. And so I just don't think it's really worth my time to devote effectively 3 months. Did the shortlist come out in February? I think it did, right? So 4 months to reading almost exclusively from this list. I think next year what I'm going to do is I will pick one category that maybe has the most things either that I want to read or that I've been meaning to read, and I will just read that single category of nominees, and I won't try to do the whole list. The whole list is a great challenge, but to be honest, I've had to put on hold a lot of books that I want to read, and then I didn't get to everything on the shortlist that I wanted to read because I just went ahead and decided, you know what, I'd rather read this other thing more, and I'm not going to put myself in a reading slump to read this nominated shortlisted book. So, yeah, I think next year I'll just focus on a single category and that'll be good for me. But let's talk about the things that I did read. This intro is kind of long. My apologies. Starting from the top, I read half of one book from the best science fiction category, and that was Record of a Spaceborne Feud by Becky Chambers. I was listening to this on audiobook. I started listening to this in February or March. I did not finish listening to it. I got about halfway through it and my hold on it expired. It then took several months for it to come back around to me. I've got a copy of it now, but when the hold came in, I was already listening to another audiobook, which I actually really like, and so I wasn't going to put that audiobook on hold. So will I get around to finishing Record of a Spaceborne Feud? Honestly, I feel like I might DNF this. It's not at the top of my priority list, to be frank. It's probably going to be a 2.5 star read for me. I didn't really care for the first one, and this technically third one is more of the same. I find Becky Chambers' writing very flat and samey. Like all the characters talk the same. The only thing giving them actual flavor is the fact that I'm listening to it on audio, and the narrator puts a lot of work into doing different voices for all the different aliens. But like sentence structure, the way conversations are structured, the way people frame what they're saying or arguments they're making, not even arguments, because no one has an argument, because like no one actually has much conflict. This is so conflict light to a degree that it's not that it needs to be like an action-packed blockbuster, but just that it's unbelievable that there is so little actual animosity or differences, like actual violent differences between such disparate groups of people. It's unbelievable to me. It's whatever. It's not my cup of tea. Plenty of other people like it. If it's your thing, cool. It's not my thing. And that was the only thing I read. I had no plans to read Vengeful. Still have no plans to read Vengeful. And I did not get to Calculating Stars. I had that out. It went on to like 2 or 3 TBRs. I never got around to it. I returned it to the library. I could get it on digital. Probably won't. Just because I have so many other things I want to read. And now that I'm working at this bookstore, there's just like so many other things I want to read. Not that it's necessarily a bad book, I don't know, but it doesn't entice me. So, next category, Best Fantasy. I read, sadly, only one thing from this category. I did not read Foundry Side. I have it checked out from my library. I may get to it. I think it's one where I will try to read it if I have some time left on my loan of it, though I'm running out of time on that loan. But assuming I finish everything that I'm currently reading, I will try to read like the first 50 pages and see what I think of the writing style, because it could surprise me. The next thing I didn't read, unfortunately, was Circe by Madeline Miller. This book I have had on hold, both a physical copy and a digital copy from my library, and I'm like number 50. I will 100% read this eventually, but it's going to take a while just because I'm not going to buy it new and I'm certainly not going to buy it in a physical copy, and it's just going to take a while to get a copy of it. What I did read was Grey Sister. I read actually Red Sister and Grey Sister this year just because Grey Sister was nominated, and this was one I was not expecting to like. I was expecting to probably DNF Red Sister. This was the biggest surprise of the shortlist, and one of the reasons I am glad that I went to the effort of reading some of these. I really like this series. I will 100% read the third book. Mark Lawrence's writing style really impressed me. Assassin nuns are not my thing, but his writing style is like really genuinely good. Like, I would almost say if you liked N.K. Jemisin kind of stuff, or if you like Dragon Riders of Pern, if you like something that has these elements of crossover with science fiction, if you're not necessarily into super intense, dry, sprawling 20 character epic fantasies, give this a go, because it has a much more narrow focus. It's almost entirely told from one perspective. There's like a secondary, is there only one second? No, there's 2 other perspectives, and they're minor, but so it's a lot more focused than a lot of epic fantasy. And I think that's also one of the things that is about it that works for me, because I am not a fan of like 12 to 20 character epics, and I like a more narrow focus. It's also in Bill's Roman, which also not my cup of tea, but this moved quickly enough that it didn't feel slow while not skipping anything, so it wasn't like we were suddenly jumping ahead 2 years and our character had radically changed, which was something I kind of had an issue with in like the first Wizard of Earthsea book, where we kind of had some big gaps with Ged. So anyways, very surprising. I quite enjoyed it. If you are looking for some like fantasy with some like definite science fiction crossover elements, such as is the case with like Dragon Riders of Pern, I cannot stress that enough. They really remind me of one another. I would say give this a go. Of these three, I have no idea what will win. I wouldn't even say I hope Grey Sister wins, because I think Cersei has a definite chance of being just as good based on what I have past readings of Madeline Miller, but I can't say anything about Founderside. So in the debut category, again, I've read half. No, I haven't even read half. I've read like a third of one of these novels. So didn't read Children of Blood and Bone, not going to. Didn't read The Poppy War, probably not going to, just because it's long. And it's another one of those like coming of age fantasies. Like maybe I should give it a try, because it could surprise me like Red Sister did. We'll see. I don't know. And I am a third of the way through Trail of Lightning. I think in my initial TBR video I said of all the books nominated across this entire list, Trail of Lightning is like the only thing that actually sounds like a novel I would have voluntarily picked up on my own. And it's true. I think Trail of Lightning's very good. I'm only a third of the way through it though, so we'll see whether or not Rebecca Roanhorse sticks the landing for me. That'll be the big question. This series strongly reminds me of the 20-Sided Sorceress series by Annie Belay, which is an originally indie published series of very short urban fantasy mysteries. However, Trail of Lightning does have like the dystopian element and is set in the Southwest instead of the Northwest. But I think if you liked Trail of Lightning and that kind of style, demon hunter, Native American character, monster slayer type thing, you could certainly check out the 20-Sided Sorceress books. Usually you can get the original trilogy. Like the first one's definitely available for free as an ebook, and you might even be able to get like the first 3 books in on a Kindle deal or something. Because like I own them and I must have picked them up on like a 99-cent sale or something. Anyway, strongly reminds me of that. I have not read Mercy Thompson, but I suspect they're a little bit like that too. So yeah, it's my jam. What deserves to win? I don't know. Like, the Trail of Lightning's not doing anything crazy. It's not doing anything revolutionary. It's just entertaining. So does it deserve to win? I couldn't say from like literary merit perspective. And also I haven't read the end, so I don't actually know if it sticks that third act or not. Let's move on to a category I haven't read at all, and that's the YA category. You know, I talked about maybe picking up The Cruel Prince. I talked about maybe picking up Strange the Dreamer so that I could read Muse of Nightmares. I did neither of these things. I'm going to go ahead and give Cruel Prince a pass. I think I will pick up Strange the Dreamer after hearing Kelsey from the Fancy Hat Lady Reads talk about Muse of Nightmares. Like, she's the first person who's actually made that duology sound interesting, which is amazing considering everyone freaking talks about this and loves it and has like nothing bad to say about it. But like all of that glowing praise not interested me ever. However, her words the other day kind of moved me, so I think I will try to pick up Strange the Dreamer when I feel compelled to read YA, whenever that is. Then, a category I did actually read for the most part was Best Middle Grade. So I read 2 out of the 3 books for this category. I read Wondersmith, and consequently I also read the first Morgan Crow book so that I could read Wondersmith. I think Wondersmith is a vast improvement over the first book. The first book's really only like a 3. It's entertaining, but it's not great. The second book I think had much better pacing and a lot better character development, and then also just like a much better third act in general. It was just more interesting. It is definitely, it feels like a spiritual successor type thing to Harry Potter, but it definitely feels like it's been written by someone who grew up in the Harry Potter craze and is somewhat critical of some of the elements in Harry Potter. Is it as well written as Harry Potter? I don't know. We'll see. Because like I will say, some of the later Harry Potter books are just like really kind of twisty and interesting ways that they also are a little bloated. I don't know. I have complicated feelings and issues with Harry Potter. But I think Morgan Crow has like its own voice. It's developing its own voice. I hope that it continues to become better and better as the series progresses. And yeah, I'll probably pick up the third one and see if it's like if it grows from the second book, because I think there's potential there. I have no idea when it's coming out though. The next thing I read from this category was Erusha and the End of Time by Roshani Chokshi. Ooh, did I give this a 3? I think I gave this a 3 stars. The first third is quite strong and interesting. It has some good like setup. It has an interesting concept. It's about a mythology we don't often see in like popular fantasy, because it's like Hindi mythology, and all of that's really interesting. Parts of the middle are okay, but it certainly starts dragging in the middle, where it just feels like things seem like conclusions characters make are very convenient, but also it feels very like unfocused what we're doing or where we're headed. And like for as little as happens, especially in the like 60 to 80% mark, I don't know, I felt like nothing happened there. And this book kind of almost put me in a reading slump. And then the ending, I don't remember the ending, because I remember writing my wrap up very belatedly after I had read this, and I could not remember the ending. I still can't remember the ending. I just remember it was like horribly cheap and like really soured the whole experience. This could be like a Morgan Crow situation where the second book will be better. And I don't know if I'm going to read the second book, because I think there's other middle grade that I enjoy more. And this didn't quite nail any of the anything for me. So it's like, okay. I think Wondersmith is a stronger book though. And if we were pitting Erusha versus like the Trials of Morgan Crow, like those books have similar like first book issues. So like they're more evenly matched. But I think Wondersmith improved on the mistakes of the first book, whereas Erusha is just making them, if that makes sense. Okay. Third book in this category was City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab. Nope. Moving on. Didn't read it. Won't. The next category, I actually read everything in, even if I hadn't entirely planned to, and that was the novella category. So I read Artificial Condition. I'm pretty sure I gave this 5 stars when I read it. I read it like over a year ago, or maybe a year ago when it first came out. It is the sequel to All Systems Red. When I read the third book in this series, because Artificial Condition is the second one, when I read the third one, I remember thinking that I liked the second one more, but like as time has gone on, my enjoyment of the third one has grown. Like my appreciation for the story has grown, because the ending is really good in the third one. So like the second and third ones are pretty on par for me now, but maybe the second one edges it out a little bit. It deals with our lovely murder bot seeking answers about their past. They go back to this place where they had kind of like their programming had malfunctioned and they'd gone berserk and they'd murdered a bunch of people. And then after that, it was the precipitating incident that challenged them to break their own governing module to make sure that a blip in programming could never cause them to do that kind of harm again. And they meet a sentient AI run ship called Art, and Art is such a good character, and I think that's for a long time why the second book stood out from the third book as being like something I loved even more, because I loved Art. I loved Art's relationship with Murderbot, and it was just like so good and so interesting. And I still feel that way. I really love this series. I think I think Martha Wells is supposed to be writing a full-length novel in this universe, and I certainly hope so. The next thing I read was Beneath the Sugar Sky by Shauna Maguire. This is the second book in the Wayward Children series. I read the first 2 years ago when they were first coming out. I didn't care for either of them. I decided to pick up this third one on a whim as kind of a last-ditch effort to see if I maybe would like Shauna Maguire if I gave her one more chance. And then I loved this book. And it's so strange. because the first two, my biggest problems with the first two novels is the third act in both of them is really bad and poorly set up in the rest of the book. And both of them have like this like last page or two thematic element that flies in the face of everything that's developed in the entire rest of the book and falls incredibly flat and feels super forced. I do think that the diversity, like, I hate saying the diversity in these books is so forced because, like, that's bullshit, but at the same time, reading these, I feel like Shauna Maguire has like a diversity checklist and she's checking it off, but she's not just checking it off. She's saying, can you see it? Can you see it? Can you see it? Can you see it? All like Grace Helbig. Like, that's how I feel when I read these books. And like, that's so annoying. But anyways, I still feel that way in this third book. But the third act was good. She managed to not completely ruin the book in the last 2 pages. She came close, but she didn't quite. Like, her themes are well developed and actually carry through to the end and are focused on, and they don't get like sleight of hand up the sleeve and disappeared like they do in the first 2 books. And so, yeah, I liked this one. I will read the 4th one. We'll see how it goes. But I feel like the whole third act issue is like, it's not even a plot thing, because I know certain plots in this series some people like and certain plots other people don't like. And so they kind of like, they like every other one. And it's different depending on who the person is, which like storylines do you like. It's not that at all. It's like 100% a writing thing where she just bungles her endings from like a thematic narrative structure point of view, and it irritates me and like ruins the book for me, which often happens in various media. Endings are difficult to nail, and they make or break a project. So anyways, coming off the back of surprisingly good, but coming off the back of enjoying Beneath the Sugar Sky, I decided to go ahead and give Binti the Night Masquerade a try, even though I read the first 2 Binti novellas last year and didn't like either of them. I thought maybe the same thing will happen. Maybe I'll like the third one. I didn't. I will say I think it's the best of the 3, but that's really not saying much because the first 2 are incomprehensibly not good. Like, the world building is interesting, but I can't even say the world building is good because the way it's done in the book, I don't think it's necessarily very adroit, but it's interesting. But the plot and the characters are so all over the place and incomprehensibly unbelievable. And like I've mentioned this before, I feel like the first 2 were written for children, like 10-year-old children. They're so simply written, but the themes are not themes for children. Like, I think they're YA sort of books, but they aren't written like they're for YA. I think the third one is more on the mark. It feels like it was actually written for YA. Complexity matches that. It was just kind of boring though, and it basically put me in a read slump for such a short book. It took me quite a few days to read, and I dreaded reading it. There's this, I've mentioned this in my wrap up, there's this really gross moment at the end where a lot of things happen to Binti and her biology goes under like considerable strain and reshaping. Since this is a science fiction novel dealing with space and aliens and ships and technology and stuff, she undergoes some radical genetic changes, and the doctor who examines her is their only interest and preoccupation is whether or not Binti can herself become pregnant, which I found gross and off-putting. That was just like a drop in the bucket. I don't get Binti's entire relationship with the Meduse. I think contextually with the actual plot and the things we see happen makes, and in conjunction with like Binti's own ongoing PTSD about these people, like her relationship with them makes no sense. And like I don't get it, unless like you want to categorize it somehow as some sort of like captors syndrome, captives, captors. I don't know. Anyway, these books feel overhyped. Sorry. Like, I know Nadia Korafor is like an award-winning author, and maybe her books actually written for middle grade are better. Like Akata Witch, maybe it's better. I don't know. I don't get on with her writing though, so I'm probably never gonna find out, to be honest. So yeah, in that category, I think the clear winner is Artificial Condition, but I guess you could probably make a case for Beneath the Sugar Sky. So there, have I stepped on enough toes yet? Probably. I did read Monster from the graphic novel category, but I didn't read the other two, and I don't even know what they are, so I don't know. I think the first monstrous I think the first monstrous graphic novel is still the best. And yeah, that I think is everything I have to say about the BooktubeSFF Awards. Let me know if you read the shortlist down below, if you loved or hated any of these books, or what you thought of the shortlist. I don't think I have anything else to say. I'm kind of glad to be done with it. I'm glad to be, I want to spend the summer picking up and reading whatever I want without a timer or a schedule. That's where I'm at right now. So yeah, thanks for watching. If you aren't already subscribed, be sure and hit that subscribe button. I'll see you guys in my next video. See ya.